This is my third video where I am looking at an array of horror movie objects. The first time we took the old-fashioned sort of prototype approach to creating the object. And in the second, we moved to the class version. And this is an extension of that class version. In version 2, in the class version, we had an HTML file, a CSS file, and a JS file. And the JS file contained the class, but then the code that was using the class was in the HTML file. So the HTML file had a sort of significant amount of JavaScript in it. And that's what we want to change here. We want to get the JavaScript, not only the JavaScript of the class, but the JavaScript that uses the class out of the HTML file into a separate file. And I have two versions of this. One in which the HTML is going to refer to two different JavaScript files. And in the second, I'm going to have the HTML refer to one JavaScript file, and then that one JavaScript file will refer to the other JavaScript file. So that's why there are two versions here, and the URLs are provided. So this is the first version of this problem, and I've reviewed sort of what the CSS does, what the HTML looks like. There's a grid styling, there's some imported fonts. So for that, look at the previous. But here is this new version where we are bringing in, using a script tag to bring in the user of the class itself, the HorrorMovie class, and then the use of the class. And then the order will matter because we want to bring in the class before we use the class. So the class is mainly just a class with a name, a constructor, a set of properties that are assigned when we make a new object, and a method that takes a rating, a numerical rating, sort of on a scale between 1 to 10 that might include a fractional part, and convert it into a rating out of 4, which only allows for like halves. So it's either 4 or 3.5 or 3. So that was the same as before, but now before the JavaScript that used the class was in the HTML. Now it is separated, and that was in this program that said use class. And so here's the using of the class. Start off with an empty array, set up a change event for the select, have some data that we're going to parse the data. There are two delimiters, one separating movies and one separating information, different pieces of information within a movie. So the pound or hashtag a delimiter separates one movie from the other. So I make horror movies, and then I loop through those horror movies and split them on the vertical bar. That breaks it into pieces. And then we are instantiating an array of the objects. And then we are using that array of objects to create options in a drop-down select. We're triggering an event for, like, when the page comes up, it looks like the user chose the first movie, which is Psycho. And then here is the function for when the user changes. So we're grabbing the value from the drop-down select, call it my index, and then we have an array of objects, my movies. My index is the index of the user selected movie. So now we have an object, and then we have the various properties of the object, the image, the description, the rank, and we're displaying them on the page. And then we have one more function that creates the sort of star version, the actual looks like stars using font awesome. So again, I went a little fast. That is in more detail in the previous two videos on this. The The big change here is that this code, which used to be in HTML, is now separated out, and there are two JavaScripts being called in this HorrorMovie. And it does, let's just do a quick live server. It does what it's always done, allows the user to explore information about different horror movies. So that was version 1 of separating the JavaScript from the HTML. Here's version 2. And so here's the HTML of version 2. Let me close all of 1. So here's the HTML for version 2. Here's the CSS. Here's this grid style divs. And here I have one script tag this time. Use class_b.js. So as far as the HTML is concerned, there's one JavaScript. And here is that use class_b JavaScript. And it is importing the other JavaScript. So in version A, the HTML loaded up two JavaScripts. In this version B, the HTML loads up one JavaScript, and then that JavaScript imports the other JavaScript. So this is the user of the class, and it is importing the class. And the / means that I'm in the same directory. So find this file in the same directory and import the class from it, and then sort of proceed as normal. So it's just two different ways. So now I've separated the class from the use of the class, from the HTML, from the CSS, and with now there being two places for JavaScript, there were sort of two ways. In version A, both of those JavaScript files were referenced in the HTML. And in this version B, the HTML referenced one, and then it in turn imported the second, the class in this case. Okay, that is what I wanted to show you. Thanks for your attention.